Is this better?
Oh, much better, yeah.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Morgan. I'm 22. I live in Columbus, Ohio, and attend Ohio State University as a floral design and marketing major. I went to Newberry Academy for grade school, followed by Walter Payton College Prep for high school. I worked tirelessly to get the opportunity to attend Payton, one of the best in the city, state, and country. I passed my Illinois Standard Achievement Test with flying colors. I earned high grades in all of my classes. I represented Illinois at the National History Day contest with a one-woman play I wrote about the public housing crisis in Chicago, a city I love with all my heart. I remember the first time I ever stepped foot in Payton. My dad took me to their student open house right before I applied to the selective enrollment schools in the city. As soon as we arrived, I just knew that Payton was the right choice for me. Everything about the place inspired me, excited me, motivated me. I believed the next 4 years of my life would be so formative and life-changing, and I was so excited to learn. Now, I'm sure everyone here knows the next few months did not go as planned. I'm sure you know that at age 14, world studies teacher and sexual predator Sam Bordy assaulted me twice in my school, in a place that was supposed to be safe. After these two deeply traumatizing incidents, Payton was no longer a safe place for me. The school had lost its sense of wonder and excitement, and so had I. I had never pictured myself going through this trauma in these circumstances. Bordy paid little attention to me in class, often ignoring my perpetually raised hand. He would grade my exams lower than they deserved, as if to taunt me to come speak with him about my grades. As a previous national history scholar, I was confident I knew how to engage with the materials presented to me, interpret and comprehend their significance, and display my knowledge in class through assignments and on exams. But even before the assaults, Bordy made me feel small and insignificant. He made me doubt myself in a way I never had before. Over the past 7 years, I've worked through this trauma with the help of an incredible support system, and recently through an important, empowering, and healing experience with the Tribune. But I am not here because of what Sam Bordy did to me. I'm here because of what CPS subjected me to in the months following. I'm here to shed light on the re-traumatizing, intimidating interrogations, the questions of my dignity, of my intent, of my character, after I'd been assaulted by my teacher. It took so much courage to simply report him to Payton administration. I suffered panic attacks nearly every day at school. I finally confided in my most trusted teacher. She told me I was doing the right thing, assured me that what Bordy had done was wrong, and told me that I was so strong. But Payton administration and CPS staff did not value that strength. They did not value me or my experience or my right to an education free of sexual harassment. I was questioned without any representation present, not my parents, not my lawyer. I was pulled from class to sit alone in a room with an old man who asked not how I felt or what they could do to make me feel safe in my own school again, but what I was wearing when I had been assaulted. I was embarrassed to tears to tell him I'd been wearing a skirt and tights. I felt guilty. I wonder if Bordy would have groped me if I had been wearing jeans, if he would have kissed me if I had been standing a few inches further away. Administration tore my story and further my will to participate in their non-protocol investigation. They nitpicked my word choice, asked me to demonstrate just how Bordy had touched me. Was it a tap or a pat? Where on your leg was it? You've told your story multiple times to multiple people who have still not notified proper authorities. Please write it down with the exact wording you used when you first reported the incident. Please demonstrate your trauma so that we may discern whether or not it is worth our time to seek justice for the wrongs that were done to you. That was the clear message I was getting from CPS. Do you know what it's like to be made to feel like a criminal when you were in fact the victim? All of this was enough to make me backpedal as quickly as I could and watered my story down, hoping that if I pretended that what had just happened was a figment of active imagination, that it would all just go away. I was not so lucky. Bordy spent much more time as my teacher before he was removed. I was forced to sit in his classroom, wondering if he knew I reported him, horrified he would confront me in front of my peers or worse, alone. In the span of time leading up to the trial, I was not kept informed of anything. If Bordy was coming back, if he had been fired, if he knew it was me, if he was admitting to his actions. I was shuttered into the dark. I felt like I was the one under investigation. It was clear that CPS did not believe me. Or at least did not believe that Bordy's actions were violating enough to have him fired. When the trial came, Bordy sat in a room with me, 1 seat away, boring holes into the side of my head. His lawyer, appointed by the Chicago Teachers Union, a board meant to ensure that teachers have all the adequate tools to do their jobs, not protect sex predators from losing their jobs, effectively called me a liar. Her line of questioning was aggressive and intimidating. She did everything she possibly could to discredit me and my story. When my mother, who has a degree in psychology and has worked as a social worker, mentioned that I was obviously mentally affected by the events that had transpired, irritable, quiet, motivated, anxious, Bordy's lawyer wanted to subpoena my medical records to prove it because she believed my own mother unfit to make such assertions. She pointed out that I never used aggressive synonyms to describe Bordy's actions when I had very bluntly been told to be as factual as possible in my statements. After the trial, I returned to my classes, unaware of the fact that my abuser had been allowed to keep his pension. It was like nothing had ever happened. For all intents and purposes, he was rewarded for his behavior. Let me make that abundantly clear for all of you. CPS currently pays the teacher who sexually assaulted me, a man who, in his own words, felt more affection toward me than any other of his students, but claims innocence, a pension. In the wake of multiple allegations of sexual misconduct, CPS provides Sam Bordy a pension. I did not learn this fact until I worked with the Tribune. What kind of system puts their student victims on trial? What kind of mayor allows sex predators to skip background checks to serve as security guards, coaches, and teachers? How is that not of the utmost concern to the leaders of this city? I came back to Chicago today from Ohio, where I study, work, and have built a life free of Sam Bordy and CPS. I came back dropping everything to do so because I care so deeply about the city and the students coming of age in it. It should never be the responsibility of survivors to mend the system of which they fell victim. The system that has failed us so miserably, allowed sex offenders with previous records into our schools, ignored multiple complaints of sexual misconduct, ignored the stories of victims, and refused to act on our behalf for fear of causing a scene in the public eye. In a recent interview, Mayor Emanuel called upon the city for suggestions to stop sex crimes in our schools, unable to come up with any of his own. In the meantime, it is absolutely necessary that we complete new, thorough background checks on all CPS staff as quickly as possible, eliminate any and all staff with previous sexual criminal history, and handle all sexual misconduct cases in the future with strict adherence to the protocols in place. You do no service to your students by conducting your own Holmesian interviews in conference rooms and front offices. It is traumatizing, it is intimidating, and ultimately interferes with the protocol that has been put in place for good reason. I will not be intimidated or belittled or quieted or shamed any longer. I ache for my fellow survivors and hope they all find the same peace and strength I've found after the better part of a decade. I was deeply failed by a school and teachers I trusted and admired. At 14, I believed these intelligent and compassionate adults would put my best interests first, and they didn't. So I'm here today in front of you asking you to advocate for all the other students, your children, who love school as much as I once did. Make it a safe place for them because it never was for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan. I know it wasn't easy. We'll have next tomorrow, Reed, and then we'll open it up for questions from the committee.